another whole topic is the banks have changed their criteria. So if you are going into it and you're promising your investors you're going to get all your capital back in years 1, 2, or 3, the answer is no. Like you don't know. You don't know that. So don't promise your investors that. And if your returns are based on that, oh look, you get an infinite return because you get all your cash back in year 3. Great. What if they shrink their LTVs to 50%, which they have? What if the appraisals are all coming in low because everyone's scared of where the rates are headed? Inflation, right? Oh, it's only at 4%. Not if you look at energy and food products. You're at 14% still for inflation. People are losing their incomes. What is that doing to rents in the multifamily world? Oh, rents are only going to go up until their incomes don't keep up.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate sponsors and syndication experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of passive real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 124 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Curtin. I am a co-GP specializing in investor relations and capital raising for multifamily sponsors. Today, we get the great pleasure of chatting with Nick Aalerud. He is a multifamily investor with 25 million assets under management, switched from residential investing to commercial investing, a nationwide life and business coach, so much more, based out of Tewksbury, Mass. Nick, how we doing, man?
All that out of Tewksbury.
All out of Tewksbury.
All right, Kyle, we have to talk a little bit too. So you and I did a Zoom podcast. It was probably, a year ago?
How about that, yeah.
And I don't remember you reading off of anything in that Zoom podcast. What's going on here now that you're live to the people? What's happening?
Hello, people. How are you?
Because they got a good look at the side of your head on this one. I just want to let you know.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Okay. Is it it's a good side? Okay.
I think it looks okay. But yeah, man. Super excited to jump in.
Thank you for having me again, dude.
Absolutely. So I know we did jump a little bit before in podcasts past. Let's jump back into your backstory a little bit. You know, take us through the multifamily stuff. Take us through today. What's going on?
What's going on?
Kind of a loaded question.
Sure. No, absolutely. So as it relates to syndication and commercial real estate, for those of you who don't know me or it's their first time seeing this podcast, used to be a big residential guy. We had, a pretty big team. We had up to 35 employees at one point, kind of crushing the residential game. 2011 until today, started playing in the value-add multifamily, and then value-add self-storage, and now hospitality space. So, I learned so many lessons along the way. We talked about a few of them on our last podcast. Partnering with the right people, making sure you do the right due diligence, making sure things happen. But every single one of those lessons that we've learned has led me in a different direction.
Love it.
So in this particular case, and as it relates to your audience, I'm sure they can just look at the old podcast. They want to hear some of the shit shows that have happened in the last 20 years. But the last 3 years, let's say, we saw a big shift in the multifamily value-add market across the country where cap rates were getting compressed, really tiny, right? So 3-4% cap rates that used to be 8 to 9 to 10. And when debt starts to go from 4% to 6% to 8%, it doesn't work. Yeah. And even the best sponsors with the best projects in the world that buy those things, right? If you make one mistake, you're done. As seen by the Texas foreclosures, $25 million in investor debt, poof, gone. So a lot of people the brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles and Joes and Schmoes who jumped in 2016, you couldn't lose money from 2016 to 2020. You could buy wrong, finance wrong, manage it wrong, didn't matter, right? So we saw that come in. We were starting to compete with all of those folks. And our KPI in 2017 or 2018 was we were analyzing 101 deals to get to one closing. Yeah. In 2020, it was 227 deals to get to one closing. So that's when we made a pivot and said, okay, multifamily is not where it's at anymore. Even self-storage got really, really hot. Where do we pivot? Yeah. And we found a great niche in what we consider the hospitality asset class, or RV parks and boutique hotels in specific strategic markets in the East Coast.
Love it. That's awesome, man. That's quite the pivot, especially from that metric of essentially doubling, the amount of deals, worth looking into, worth underwriting, that type of thing. More than doubling. That's what, like 120% or something like that? Like just like straight up, from a few years ago.
Twice as much work, and your yield is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So you're working twice as hard for less and less returns. It just didn't make any sense.
Absolutely. No, I like that. And one of the reasons that I do like that as well is being able to have that metric within your business, to be able to make that realization that maybe it's time to pivot to something else now.
Oh my God.
Something that makes maybe a bit more sense, especially from like an overhead perspective, from an expense and a time perspective, to just switch.
KPIs are everything.
Yeah.
Right? Knowing your numbers, knowing your KPIs are absolutely everything. That's for residential businesses, commercial businesses, raising capital businesses, it doesn't matter, right? Like, what are the numbers? How many conversations? How much? But ultimately, we can talk about this more as we get through it, but finding what excites you, finding the alignment and what excites you. Another big rule that came to me over just the past 12 months, if it's not a hell yes, it's a fuck no.
I love that.
And that, if you saw me post it, and it's that became my new mantra. So I probably get, I'd say 3 to 5 deals kind of presented to me every week to try to help them asset manage or raise capital for, or be a PG on, whatever it is. And I used to try to say yes to everything because you didn't know what was coming, right? And a lot of people, when they're starting out, say yes to everything, and that's a good move, but you're also not focused, and you get involved with a lot of stuff that you're learning and bumbling through. But at the time, you're like, oh shit, does this excite me?
Yeah.
Is this a place where that can people want to go to? There's a super cool water park or a super cool attraction nearby, or people are going to vacation here. They're going to make memories here. Is it a place that I want to go? Instead of what I used to do, which was, Class C minus and C, value add multifamily in Western Pennsylvania or in Ohio or in Georgia or in Maine. It's just cooler, right? Mm-hmm. Lifestyle assets.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Absolutely. When it came to I'm curious too, when you are underwriting, a lot of those types of deals and stuff, what was kind of your perspective when it came to debt? Were you looking more with a dominant focus on fixed rate debt or variable debt, when kind of underwriting as the economy started to kind of change?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so in our spreadsheets, it's super, super important to stress test every deal, but we would look at everything that we do as value add, mm-hmm. right? So I know you do a value add, and your listeners probably do. There's core value add and opportunistic, right?
Yep.
So value add means that it's going to take 18 to 24 months typically for this to get stabilized, for us to do all the heavy lifting, for us to kind of kick the old management out, rebrand, get everybody out of the buildings and completely renovate everything or put the amenities in, whatever it might take. So with that said, it's tough to get stabilized debt at the front end.
Yeah.
Because you're going to doing so much stuff, and whatever the cash flow is right now, which is probably shit, right? You're going to be revamping the entire thing anyway in 18 to 24 months.
Yeah.
So typically, on value add, we still had to get bridge debt or 24-month debt on these things. It's a higher interest rate, and it's a shorter term loan. As we got more, as local community banks got more comfortable with us, they were on occasion able to give us 2 years interest only.
Nice. At
a same lower rate. That was a 5-year fixed or a 10-year fixed. To eliminate the risk, we wanted fixed rate debt.
Yeah.
Period. Right? So in the moment we needed to incorporate a refinance as part of our investor returns, that is dangerous.
Yeah.
Now, knowing we want to refinance just for the sake of refinancing for a capital event, but not basing the returns on that, that's okay. So we could do bridge debt into perm debt, that's okay, but we just have to make sure the costs are there for the refinance. We have to stress test the new interest rate. So if it's 7% now, what does it look like at 9%, 9.5%, 10%, right? If occupancy right now is at 90%, what does that look like at 85, 80, 60% occupancy, right? What's almost the worst case scenario? And if we're still okay, right? If we're still in principal preservation mode, we know it's a really good deal. Now, all the other fundamentals around that area, around the asset class, and around the one specific project, if those all align, chances are we're not going to have the worst case scenario.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's huge, man. I mean, especially thinking about what's going on even today, you know what I mean? How there's a lot of bridge debt that's coming due and that type of thing, and a lot of unfortunate situations that might be coming up in the next now to 24 months?
We ran into, I'll tell you a challenge. We ran into a big challenge in our lower valued markets. So we've been building, I don't know if I chatted about that in your old podcast, but when I went through my first residential real challenges in 2005 and 6.
Yeah.
Right, my first 5 deals went horribly wrong. I lost all my money, lost all my credit, and it was a rough day. I couldn't use my credit to buy rental properties, moving from our get to grow in our G5 framework, right? So I had to go to Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio to slowly build up single family home rentals that I could buy cash because I couldn't finance them, right? As that happened, there were smaller markets, right? So you'd be all in on a property in $25,000, $30,000 all in, rented for $500 a month. That worked for a while. And we kept building this portfolio, and it was funny because right around a year and a half ago, we started saying, it doesn't make sense for us to manage out here anymore. So either we go bigger and go all in, kind of like the hedge funds, let's get to 100 units and then sell them off to an institutional grade investor, or we start selling them off piecemeal, just get out of the market. All that to say, we started trying to place longer term debt on them because they had no debt at that point. Gotcha. So we started to place longer term debt on them, right? This is right as 2020, everything changed. All long-term lenders would only lend, they stopped doing blankets, portfolio commercial loans, and they said your minimum asset value has to be $100,000. Now these houses are worth maybe $50,000 to $75,000 or $80,000 a piece. So when we had bridge debt on, let's say, 9 or 10 of them, right, and we still had maybe another 25, 30 units out there, we couldn't get out of the bridge debt because all of a sudden the long-term lenders were like, nope, we're only going to do $100,000 minimum asset values. The rate's gone up. LTVs went down to 60%. And we're like, oh, shit.
That's awkward.
It is awkward, right? But it was, I already knew that was coming, and it really taught us a lesson. So, huge thanks to our private equity investors, right? We had a bunch of people just come in and help take out the bridge lender. And now they're cash flowing really, really well. But we're still facing, if you're in a market that's not like a super nice emerging market, or that's a tertiary market that no one really hears about, or a C- market, the lenders aren't going to lend what people can put on a syndication spreadsheet. And they can change their guidelines like that. So LTVs drop, rates can soar up, or they just say, we're not lending on any deals that are under $100,000. Okay. So wow. We have to roll with it.
That's terrifying, man. Holy crap. Wow. So take us through, I think that's incredibly interesting. So kind of take us through when you were going through that shift of, kind of looking for something more alternative, asset class wise. How did kind of the self-storage RV parks start to kind of poke its head and kind of get into that type of world? Sure.
Yeah. Self-storage, I'm pretty close with, I don't know if you know Fernando Angelucci or Steve out in Chicago, but these guys are the self-storage guys. So we were in a mastermind together, and they were on me for a while. They were on my podcast, the Shut Up and Do It podcast, and so we had been in the self-storage game for a while, but not very active.
Gotcha.
So we saw the returns were there. We liked that there was no tenants, toilets, or trash, right? We liked all the sexy things about it. We liked that there's no evictions and there's just a change the lock, take over, and sell all the shit. Right? I like the asset class a lot.
Yeah.
But then when I got interested in it, again, there comes Joe, Mary, and all their brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles all of a sudden jumping in trying to buy self-storage across the country, right? So once again, we had our acquisitions team start to focus on it, and then all the pricing just started to soar right up, and all of our yields went down.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't until, it was actually a friend of mine, Ben Simon from Archer, who called me. He's like, hey, Nick, let's chat about what we can do together, and can you help us raise some capital? And he's like, we've got this RV park under agreement. I'm like, I don't know anything about RV parks. I'm not your guy. I loved him, right? And we had
shout out to Ben.
Yeah, totally.
Love you, dude.
Ben's amazing. And I had a conversation with him about it, and I was like, hey, if you're cool with that, I don't know much about this asset class. I'll dive in. Let's take a gamble, and I'll throw it out to our list and see what we can do. And really big props to Ben and his team, and Carl and John and Alex. The very first park we got, I was feeling I had to have them eliminate my risk. And so what they did is two of them, Carl and John, literally moved onto our first park to almost eliminate the operational risk. So, okay, they're going to live there. So if we go over budget on something, these guys, they had all the equipment on the site, and they did. They would jump into the ditch witch, and they would jump into the septic tank and try to fix
Wow.
we now learned everything that was needed to oh yes, hospitality does come with more management intensive operations. You do need on-site management. You do need to have KPIs and checks in place. You do need to have security cameras. You do need to have activities and events planned for your campers because it's hospitality, right? But if you can get over and understand what's required on the operations side, and you have solid people that you trust and believe in, right? And we have another park, we hired a manager.
God.
Now she's good, right? But until she isn't. But at least now we have the SOPs that we've created. We have expectations, here's what we know about our first park, translating to our second park, and now we have parks 3 and 4 under agreement, which is going to be pretty exciting. But it's all Mass, New Hampshire, and Connecticut really right now. I like parks also down south. I like that there's 4 seasons, and we can get into RV parks and criteria and stuff like that, but that's, the biggest thing about RV parks is it's vacation land. So you have to have an attraction. You can't but mobile home parks are very different. Mobile home parks are affordable housing. The last affordable housing class in America, some people say. But RV parks, it's vacationing. So you have to have a theme park attraction or a water park or ski mountains or hiking. Something's got to be there to attract them versus mobile home parks. So
interesting.
I just went on 8 tangents, but
no, that was great. Squirrel.
Yeah.
No, I love it, man. Really, and I have so many questions. I'm trying to just kind of boil it down there, but
I got all day. This is my office. I'm just kidding.
This is true. By the way, guys, if you haven't caught it yet, this is our first live podcast for the both of us. So I'm gonna put it up there, Nick.
Beautiful, man. Set up in here. That's why I was giving him some shit about he's got all the people watching right here. So it's good.
Cam in the back. But yeah, man. So yeah, to be honest with you, I'm definitely not familiar with that type of asset class at all, right? So even the concept of the difference between the two of those, one being potentially the last low income housing in America, that type of thing, and the complete opposite side of the coin within that alternative investment of vacation land and attractions and wow, I didn't know that, So one question that I do have about that is, does essentially is the business portion of it plus the land the same thing? So if you acquire a park, right? Are you just kind of assuming the management from day one, or I guess kind of what I'm trying to ask is the business and operations part of it different from buying the land?
Yeah, totally. If you think about it, RV parks, they're one and the same because
Gotcha.
they're only gonna come. The business will only function if you have a really cool park in a nice location and you have the amenities, your land and your amenities on your land count towards your operations.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
So they're both. When we buy a park, you're buying cash flow, just like if you're buying a multifamily, you're buying multifamily. They are renting the dirt, right? So transients will bring their rigs onto our site. They'll stay with us for 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, or a month, or they'll do a whole seasonal, right? So a 5-month season. And with all those rates, depending on what they want to do and what they've done every year for the last 20 years.
Yep.
So we've also taken, in the Northeast, it's different than down south because there's not a lot of winter camping. Because up here, water lines on the ground, they'll freeze, septic tanks, you have to deal with those stuff, right? So we've started experimenting with water tanks on site, and we've been slowly taking what were only 3-season parks and converting some long-term income. So people can now stay seasonally through the wintertime near the ski mountains, near the forests, near the white, they can do all that cool stuff. And it also helps stabilize cash flows during our off season. So, what's the SEC rules? One person's experience does not indicate future results, right? Actual performance. But, the first park we ever did, with our projections, we had no idea the demand of what we were buying. And
Gotcha.
all these managers, a lot of them are older. That first one just wanted to move to Florida, moved to the Keys, and that was the end of it, go fishing. And he had not raised his rates in years and years and years. And he also was happy being 100% occupied. So, like in multifamily, you're 100% occupied, you're too low on your rent, right? In this particular case, I think we raised rents maybe 35% after putting in the amenities, after putting in the higher Wi-Fi, after doing the security cameras up, after paving the roads. We went up like 30%, and we were still 100% occupied. Like, wow. It's just the people want to be in a really cool, nice place.
Yep.
But that's RV parks. We don't have to get into RV parks if you want. Mobile home parks are different. Self-storage different. Like, whatever you want to talk about, whatever your people want to hear.
That's wild, man. I do have one more question about that was kind of on my mind. Is like, from an operational perspective, and I assume it'll probably depend, from like the size of the parks and that type of thing. But is there like full-time staff on board, like coordinators for like events and like cleaning crews, or like what does that kind of look like from like an overhead perspective?
Yeah, so these parks always have someone on site, right? At least one person, depending on how many pads, how many guests you get. If they're transients versus seasonals, is how many other people you need. I would say you probably want like between 3 and 5 people on site. One of them is going to be your park manager. So typically, they would get the Northeast up here, somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 a year to manage that park. But they're also helping run the events. They're also helping, manage smaller CapEx projects or smaller repairs. But they'd also be the ones meeting with larger contractors if there's bigger CapEx repairs or bigger business improvements and that sort of thing. When you take over a park, right, just like multifamily, like that first 18 to 24 months, it's like all hands on deck. We have multiple crews in there. We have tree people. We've got plumbers. We've got electricians. We've got, have to bring in new service from the street. There's so much that goes into making sure that the park not only meets modern, the other comps in the area, or exceeds the other parks in the area, right? Because we want to be the best park and even be at the same price.
Yeah.
But there's just lots of different coordination. Like, can you do solar panels and solar grids? Like, that's a whole income stream that we were investigating in both of our parks. Wow. Can we clear, an acre or two of land and put more sites on it? Glamping sites, tenting sites, tiny homes, micro cabins. Do we have water on site? And we're able to kind of fit in some tent sites along the water, so people can have like a really cool fire pit and maybe a barrel sauna on the water. Like, wow. These are all cool vacation things, right? I like RV parks because not just like multifamily where there's like one revenue generator, like what's the rent?
Yeah.
Right? or we have vending machines, we have retail shops, we have solar arrays, we have renting, we have electrical utility bill backs. There's so many different levers you can pull on the income, which, remember, every dollar that you increase your bottom line with, there's a multiplier effect of whatever that cap rate is for the value of the park.
Yeah.
Right? Wow. So if you can increase NOI by $10 a month or $120 a year, right? Let's go $1,000 a year, right? So you increase all the pads $10 a month for the year, and you're $1,000 extra on your net operating income. That adds RV parks are at about 10% cap rates right now. So that is $10,000 added to your bottom line. If you raise rents across the board for 100 pads, right, and you raise rents across the board to like $100 a night for the transients, and there's transients and seasonals, like you have to kind of do a blended rate. It's hard to figure all that out, which is what our team's really good at. But let's say you adjust the net income. Like for us, we've been adjusting it for about $80,000 to $100,000 for the first 2 years, cumulatively.
Gotcha.
So $100,000 added to the bottom line, that's $1 million in net value that we've just created in year one. Like, that's insane.
Pretty badass, yeah.
That's badass. And in multifamily, that used to be the case in 2014 and 2015, but you haven't been able to, now it's at a 4% cap. So you increase it by $100,000, now it might be worth $400,000 more. And good luck to you with the banks that have just shrunk their LTVs down to 50%. So your cash out refi, that's a whole other topic. Cash out refis, right? We've got a talk coming up when burrs turn into gers. I'm excited for that talk.
Yes.
Coming in, you're not going to see this by then, but Leominster, whatever date that's going to be, if you're local, come check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But, right, another whole topic is the banks have changed their criteria. So if you are going into it and you're promising your investors you're going to get all your capital back in years 1, 2, or 3, the answer is no. Like, you don't know. You don't know that. So don't promise your investors that. And if your returns are based on that, oh, look, you get an infinite return because you get all your cash back in year 3. Great. What if they shrink their LTVs to 50%, which they have? What if the appraisals are all coming in low because everyone's scared of where the rates are headed? Inflation, right? Oh, it's only at 4%. Not if you look at energy and food products. You're at 14% still for inflation. People are losing their incomes. What is that doing to rents in the multifamily world? Oh, rents are only going to go up until their incomes don't keep up.
Yeah.
Right? I have a whole soapbox. I guess I just gave you a couple. Let's talk amongst one of those.
Wow. It's so true, man. It's wild. I do definitely really like the aspect of how creative you can be in that type of space, right? Like with all of those ancillary type of businesses within one. I think that's cool as shit. Wow. So yeah, I love that, man. So take us kind of through, is that, kind of your big focus at the moment? I know there's definitely one that I'm going to ask you about, a pretty cool movement that you have going on.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good. So I went through, I don't know if I shared this on your first podcast, but I'm happy to share it here, right? So the last 3 years have been an amazing awakening for me. There was a point where we were trying to crush, 150 residential deals a year. We were trying to pick up an extra 400 units or 1,000 units. We had a bunch of people on staff and payroll. We had, 40 real estate agents in the brokerage firm, the property management company, and the construction and maintenance division, and we had it all, right? The vertically integrated companies underneath AA Real Estate Group.
Yeah.
And there was literally just a moment when you looked around, and I was like, this was not the financial freedom that I had envisioned, right? Locking myself into, 16, 20, 23 Zoom meetings a week for accountability purposes and management and reading KPIs and addressing problems and hiring high level, but knowing other low people were still leaving. That was not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And I learned that, okay, I did it. And now let me go back to my original vision of what does freedom look like for me? So this all answers your question because, is this what you're focused on now? Well, I am and I'm not. I partner with very strategic operators who are really, really good people.
Yep.
Right? And people that I like, that share a vision. And I've also made a very clear boundary for myself saying, I'm going to do less than 10 deals this year. And I will most likely do less than 10 or less than 8 next year. So again, if it's not a hell yes, it's a fuck no, right? So that when you have that new outlook, when everyone's sending you deals, you're getting text blasted and email, can you be a part of this one? Can you be a part of this one? Can you help us with this one? Or even if a residential game, like wholesales, right? There's a one deal over here, and an agent sends you an off market over here, and this and that. You start to have a whole different outlook and say, you know what? Not for me. Because why? What's not part of your criteria? You know what? This one even is part of my criteria. It just doesn't excite me.
Yeah.
Yep. And you get to have a whole different outlook. So you wake up in the morning, what do I choose to do? And who do I choose to serve today? So am I doing RV parks? Am I doing mobile home parks? Am I doing, boutique hotels? Yeah, right now, because they excite me. That said, I'm way more excited about helping others find their freedom.
Yep.
I'm way more excited, and I'm going to kind of dismiss all the millionaire talk and make your net worth to 10 million. I feel all that's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's really about what can you wake up and do what it is that you want to do and not have any worries about finances. And what I've also found, as you know this because you're in our community, sometimes it's not just the grind, it's not about the finances that bring the finances into the door. Now I'm learning all that, didn't believe in any of this 4 years ago, but how do I get in vibrational alignment where I attract the right deals, I attract the right partners, I attract all the funding that's needed for these deals, right? And if you can master the shit that people think is a waste of time in the morning, like your meditations, like your journaling, like your choosing and being intentional with what you're going to do for the people that you love and care about, with finances being your afterthought.
Yeah.
Because that's where we're at now. You can grind your way to $1 million if you want. I did that. I did that multiple times.
Yeah.
You know what? I made shit tons of mistakes, and I've made over 10 million in real estate, but I've lost 7 because of not being in vibrational alignment with who I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And real estate is our tool, right? It's our tool to having a better life. This is not our entire lives.
Exactly.
But we can use it as a tool to also help free others so they can go on vacations across the world that they want to do, or they can take their families to magical cruises that they could never thought they could have afforded. Or if you want, you can go Grant Cardone style and buy the jet and buy the helicopter and buy all that stuff, because that's what, the universe put us on the earth for. Like, feel this shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to have money and have tangible stuff and go on experiences. And I'll tell you right now, the people who are like, oh, you should be giving all your money away. It's like, but if you make so much more money by doing it the right way and impacting and serving others, you have so much more of an impact that you can give.
Yeah.
With influence, with cash, of course, but with time and service and just people who could look at you in a different way. That's the new movement, as you're already knowing about.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Moving in from REI Ignition and REI Accelerated, which is teaching people, right, how to use real estate as the tool to financial freedom. But we move you very quickly into something called Life Unlimited, which is going after a lot of the fears, a lot of the shit that we've experienced as kids that keeps us from really feeling the life that we need to feel.
I love it, man. That's incredible. It's so true. And like, guys, like, I'm not being biased here, but literally, like, since I became a part of Nick's community, of a lot of other folks, especially in our REI Ignition group, in that community, like, it's really given me a whole different perspective on like life and balance and the value of relationships and like the why of like why we do everything that we do and for what purpose and servitude. And like, to Nick's point, like, it's all about what serves you at the end of the day. How can you serve others? Like, and exactly, like, using real estate and business as the tool to be able to do that. And to your point, Nick, like, I was telling Nick a couple weeks ago, so one of the things that Jason's gonna laugh. One of the things that is pretty popular within our community is this thing called Jason time. And Jason's gonna be cracking up if he's listening to this in the car or whatever. Love you, man. But essentially, like, what that is like, taking like a couple hours a month or whatever that looks like, in terms of frequency that serves you the most, to just have you time. You know what I mean? And just like reflect and like think about your relationships in different areas of your life, that type of thing. And that's something that loops right into like what Nick was mentioning about, like morning routines, like without going down like a small rabbit hole. Like, if I don't do my miracle morning, like, the world is on fire. Like, everything is hot as hell. Like, we're flying on a big rock through outer space. Like things are crazy, man. You know what I mean? But but it's like for real. You know what I mean? And so a few weeks ago, I had a Jason time. I went to Horn Pond in Woburn, which is a couple towns away from where we're located now. It's just like a big pond, like, walking area, that type of thing. And I was having, one of my Jason times, and I just had like a podcast, and I was all by myself. Like, I was just, walking and just thinking about my relationships and the different areas of my life and like where I'm lacking, where maybe I'm focusing too much attention, like who that's impacting, friends, family, like just the whole gamut, right? And I realized something. I'm like, so my why, what I thought my why was for the past 4 or 5 years or so was, like, you're going to use real estate, you're going to make enough every month to be able to quit your day job and have your mom quit her day job as well. And like, without going down a whole like wicked long, like story, like my mom has done a ridiculous amount to raise me and my sister and that type of thing. But anyway, so for one of the first times after doing this Jason time, I was able to go a lot deeper. And like, I think one tip that I will give you guys as well is to like be able to reach a different frequency and be able to go like a lot deeper within yourself, or like just think a little bit deeper than you normally might on just a regular plane. Change your entire environment. for me, it was like 70 degrees out, like the sky was orange, like there were people everywhere, like the air was friggin' beautiful. I don't even know what that means, but like it was, you know, and like, I don't know, like just the scene was like perfect for just like being calm, you know, and like the water had like this little wave to it, little ripples and stuff. But anyway, so I was listening to this podcast, and it was one of the, I want to say it was one of the Tribe of Millionaires podcasts with Jamie Gruber. Shout out to you, man, if you're listening to this. But essentially, like, I was listening to it, and they were talking about your mission and your purpose. And I really started to think, man, I always take a notebook with me when I do my Jason time, like scratch down, like whatever the hell's on my mind, right? Whatever I need to work on. And essentially, I was thinking, I'm like, oh, well, you know, that's easy. Like, my purpose is, you know, to free me and my mom from, you know, the golden handcuffs, W-2 thing, you know, being controlled by money, all that stuff, you know. And I was able to go a little bit deeper. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, that's 100 million% like my big freaking focus. Like, I haven't thought like anywhere past that really, but I was able to go a little bit deeper. And what it really boiled down to was like, yeah, well, you know, what happens when you do get there? Shit, I don't know. Like, I haven't thought that far ahead. You know, I'm like, you know, it's, you know, I have a goal for 3 years away, whatever. But I'm just thinking about it, like, what happens then? You know, and I've talked to a couple people that have been in the real estate world for like 30, 40 years. And like, I brought up this conversation of like, oh, well, like, what happens when you get to that BHAG, that, you know, big, hairy, audacious goal? Like, now what? And it's like gotten some people to think, and like, I don't know, it just basically like case in point, it really made me question a lot more of like, yeah, like, that's absolutely my why. That's like the biggest freaking thing that means the most to me in the entire world. I'm like, what happens when we get there? So the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I'm like, my purpose is really to help others avoid growing up the way that we did, being controlled by money. And I'm like, the byproduct of giving enough value to the marketplace, whether it takes 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever the hell it's going to take, like, I'm going to get my original purpose. You know, the value will be exchanged. Like, it's just going to be, my original purpose is going to be a byproduct of my new purpose of going a lot deeper. And it just, like, something about that, man, just like felt right. You know, I'm just like looking at the water. I'm like, you know what? And it changed everything. And like, it really like fucked with my mind, like in a good way. Because it's like, literally like everything just got like thrown a curveball, but like a good curveball, you know? Amen. Like if you're like the pitcher, like, I don't know, whatever. But I don't know, it just made me think. I'm like, all right. I'm like, so how much value can I just give to the marketplace to be able to show people like, hey, like this real estate thing, whether it's, you know, house hacking, whether it's investing as an LP, like being an operator, like whatever your cup of tea is, right? Like, how much can I give you and show these different types of opportunities, like different ways to do things, educate, like give value, like how much can I just give out, you know? And I'm like, and that was the realization, man, is like, at some point, like, I'm going to get the thing that I aspired for the most.
Yes, you will.
And it's just going to be a byproduct, you know? And I'm like, fuck, like now, like it all makes sense. And there was a quote too, and I'm going to butcher it, man, and I shouldn't, because I should have a freaking tattoo of that thing. But there's a quote in the back of Joe Fairless's, what's it called? Like the Best Ever Apartment syndication book, like the big red one. And it says basically, I'm going to butcher it, guys, I'm sorry. But
sorry, Joe.
It is what it is. But essentially it's like, you know, it asks the question for like people raising capital of like, oh, well, you know, why am I showing this opportunity to others? And what he wrote in there, like I wrote it down everywhere. Like I send it out to people all the time. Like it's in my phone. Literally, it's like, you know, you're presenting these opportunities to invest to others to be able to make the projected returns that you project. So they make the, you know, amount of capital and stuff that, you know, they desire to be able to live the lives that they really choose. You know? And it's like everything literally just looped together in alignment. I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like everything just feels like right now. You know, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, like I'm not really sure 100% now, like in terms of goals, like quantitatively. I'm like, yeah, I know, like, getting into the syndication space, like it's going to take a while, long-term game, relationships, that type of thing. I'm like, but it just makes sense now. And like literally these type of like self-awareness, like types of experiences, like I never would have thought to have, Jason time, to have a freaking miracle morning, like if it wasn't for Nick and the group. And it's to be able to hear your vision of like taking this thing nationwide and impacting numbers of people that can't even be written down on a piece of paper is a beautiful thing. Because I've personally, like, it's changed fucking everything, and like, thank you.
He's even dropping F-bombs on his own podcast. It finally happened.
Well, once in a while, like, we wouldn't stuff, and like, this one, I'm gonna throw it as an expletive. Why not, guys? Because it's real. It's fucking real,
Look at the energy. So this is your first live podcast. You guys see like the goosebumps he's getting right now? The energy from this guy?
Literally, man. Like, legit.
Yeah. When you get a download like that, but with the download doesn't come when you're trying to bang through your calls or bang through your LinkedIn connections or bang through. It comes when you're with yourself, when you're quiet. And it still takes practice because a lot of us have the mind that doesn't stop.
Squirrel.
Yeah. Yeah. But once you learn and you can play with that and you can play with the silence and play with your relationship with a higher power, that shit happens. Yep. And all of a sudden, there's your new beacon. Oh, well, this is going to work out anyway. I just got to focus up here.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, man.
Thanks, man.
Really appreciate you being on this Life Unlimited podcast.
Number one, let's go.
No, that was beautiful. It starts with your vision. It starts with where you're headed. That's beautiful, dude. For real.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's the thing, right, guys? Like Nick was saying, like, and this was something that, that you guys like really like gave me an awareness and a perspective, and an ability to kind of think about is like, it's real estate's just a tool, guys. Like, I forget. I think it was Gordon that said it a while back. I think it was Gordon. I'm pretty sure. But he was saying something like, "Oh, like the percentage of people that just wake up and like they're born to like be real estate investors, and that's like their life's purpose. Nothing else matters. I'm just gonna buy buildings and crush it. Like no relationships, no wife, no kids, no nothing. Like like it's not like." It's probably a very low percentage.
Or zero.
Exactly. But like Nick said, like just having it's just a tool. That's all it is.
It's just the tool. And there will be a day too. So to cap it off, we talk about the REI ladder as one of our frameworks. We have our G5 framework, our F5 framework, and we have this REI ladder, which starts in very active, W-2 jobs or agency or wholesaling. And then as you go up, you then start to add more value like rehabbing or value add multifamily or landlording. And finally at the very top, right? That's when you realize your relationship with money changes. At the very bottom being survival, right? Money is survival. Then you move up to the next level. Money is a tool. And then you move up to the third one. Money is a weapon that I get to spend and have it come back to me, but I also use it to make me a better person. And finally at the top, you realize money is not even real. Like money is just energy and it comes and it goes and it flows and you can attract it and you can repel it, right? But what is money at the end of the day for? It's for comfort, right? It's for comfort. Yeah. You want to be in a place where your problem right now that might cost $1,200 to fix, like your tires go, right? So $1,200. Like for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. But your next version of you in a year from now will look at that and laugh. But that version's going to have their own issues.
Yep.
But a lot of those issues, what we think are money problems, if you have the money, that's not a problem. There's bigger problems that are not money related, and most of that is from childhood, from traumas, from past lives, and all that shit can be put on the table to be dealt with. And imagine a life where not only are you not worried about cash, but there's no limiting belief left within your own head. So you can become, do, or have anything. And kids have that when they're born, Kyle. Kids have that. And that's why, like, we had a live event in Leominster a month and a half ago, and, like, now it's like I have a whole different relationship when I see a kid. Like, I just broke down and started crying. I'm like, don't you let Like, people put their limiting beliefs on you. Like, you are perfect as you are.
Yep.
You know, schools, religious leaders, even parents and friends especially.
Yep.
You even mentioned, right? Our circle of friends and even our family members, right? We get to choose what vibrations we want around us. And a lot of times they're not in alignment with the people who think they know best for us.
Yeah.
But we're changing and we're going to a higher level. And sometimes that requires us to still love people, but not necessarily have to be made from them.
Yep.
You know?
And you know something, man? Like, I started to kind of realize that, like, probably in high school. That, like, oh, like you're brought up, you know, like, you just do what, like, your mom and dad say, right? Or, you know, whatever your situation is. Like, and you're in a sense, and I mean, it's going to be different for everybody, right? But, like, you're in a sense, like, the path is already, like, predetermined. Like, oh, you know, like, you're going to go to college, you're going to get this job, like, you're going to do this, that, the other. Like, this is the path you're going. Like, just listen to my instructions, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's, like, I don't know, I realized it in high school. I'm like, all right, I'm like, you know, I absolutely appreciate my parents, like, there's no tomorrow, right? But the thing is like, it became real to me roughly at that point in time that, like, no, like, you're a different person. You've you know, kind of gotten this far. You can pick the path that you want to go. You know, and like Nick said, like, it's, you know, again, it's going to be different for everybody, but, like, don't just make, like, a hard shift and, like, cut out, like, you know, relationships to, like, just do your own thing. But, like, and some people might have to, whatever, but, like, you know, just, I don't know, just kind of, like, a balance to it and that type of thing. But, like, that became real to me of, like, yeah, you know what, I do have my own path. I'm like, you know what, I don't, you know, necessarily have to go to college or whatever. Like, I have the freedom to choose. And, like, everybody has the freedom to choose, you know, in a sense, right? Like, you don't like the job that you're at? All right, like, you can go do another job. Or, like, you know, but it's like, I don't know. that was my soapbox, you know, but, like,
it's true.
Yeah.
It's
you know?
true. And I don't think the cameras can pick this up. I had this tattoo done just this year, and it's our sands of time. It's the hourglass, right? All of us have had a limited amount of sand in there. Yeah. And then there's a hand that's choosing one specific grain of sand that they want to live in that one moment, right?
I love that. And
the whole point of this is that we can live the same life that everybody else lives. We can live the life that society says, oh, what about, you know, I always use Netflix. Now I actually love Netflix and I watch some shows on it. But there's sedation tools for all of us around there, right? There is Netflix, there is pornography, there is drugs, there is alcohol, there is, you know, having, there's just sleeping, right? Like, there's also work. Work, especially for a lot of men that I've seen, right, is a sedation tool. Yeah. Because they don't know how to share their emotions and can't handle the stresses of being with the family, like their loved ones. They don't know how to relate. They don't know what their masculine is, and it's a whole other soapbox. But the whole point of this is, right, like, you can choose. And everybody out there who's like, oh, but I can't because, I get it. You were given that story as a child up until 12 years old by somebody, by some experience you had, by some feeling that made you feel bad, but you had to earn someone's love. You had someone left you in your lifetime, right? All of this shit that happens to us. But once you free yourself from these beliefs, from these stories, that's all the other stories, right? One practice that we go through a lot, if you're ever triggered by something, if you're ever triggered by something, right? Something triggers me. I'm angry. I feel hatred. I feel sad. I feel happy. I feel grateful. But usually it's a negative trigger, right? You're just like, I can't believe that fucking guy just did that.
You just cut me off in traffic.
Cut me off in traffic, right? and what I've learned to do over the past several years has been, wow, if we are triggered, that's something within us. That person probably did not even, some of them do mean to do it, but some of them didn't know about it, right? So you look at yourself and you can do what we call the different stories. Well, shit, you know, that guy cut me off in traffic. I feel angry about that. That's crazy. So it says, how do you feel about that? Well, I feel angry. I feel like the guy just ripped me off, and like it ruined my whole day, and now I'm in negative energy to go to my next appointment, and everything's happening to me right now. That's interesting. Like, what's the story behind this trigger that you're telling yourself? This guy's an asshole. That's my story, right? And then there's different turns, they call them, in the story. Well, if that's true, what's the opposite story? He's not an asshole. He's a really, really nice guy, and he didn't really know what he did. Is that story true? Could be. Is there evidence? Maybe. What's the me story? Here's another turn. I'm the asshole. Right? What's the evidence there? How does that make you feel? Is there enough evidence there? And now that you've investigated other perspectives of this one trigger that you have, right? Now that you've investigated the opposite story, the me story, now you can choose a new story that serves you, right? So what's the desired story? Is the me or opposite story desired story? Maybe, he's not the asshole. He's having a rough day, right? He has his own triggers. He has his own shit. We don't know what's going on with him. His sister's in the hospital about to die, right? And he's got 10 minutes to get to Lowell General, and that's the end of it. Okay. And what story do I want to create? Well, I choose my own, the story that I usually come to, right? I get to choose my own emotions. I get to choose what stays with me and what doesn't. And I choose to let this go because we're all human. We're all perfectly imperfect. He's got his day. I've got my day. Does it serve me to hold on to this emotion? It doesn't. No. I now let it go. I now release it to the world. And if people you can start to do that faster and faster and faster as you practice this, the different turns, right? Like now, anytime there's a trigger, right? It goes back to, like, for me, I had a lot of abandonment stuff. So I would have, like, people just, quit my teams or, leave the coaching groups, right? What the fuck's wrong with me? Then it's like, I go back, oh, that's because I got some stuff. That's because I got stuff to work through. We all have that stuff. We are so far off the topic of commercial real estate and creating wealth.
This is great. No, really. This is part of it, guys. This is part of it, right?
This is why the money relationship with money is attraction.
Yep.
Because nothing is real at that level. It's a man-made thing. Money is man-made. So once we get in a vibrational alignment with who we are, we start to eliminate all those limiting beliefs. We start to eliminate a lot of those traumas. We can attract better deals. We attract better partners. We attract the funding. That's absolutely freaking true. And by the way, if you are feeling in scarcity, because a lot of people, we're humans, right? Oh shit, well, I woke up in scarcity this morning, and you got to do your work, the Jason time or your miracle morning, or right, like the power, the core four, or whatever you want to call it. If you're feeling that way and you're in scarcity, the number one cure, I have a cure for this, right? And journaling helps, and meditation will help, and envisioning will all help. You know what the number one cure is if you feel like this, oh my God, I don't have enough money and I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills this week?
What's that?
Go give $100 to somebody. And without question, you've just changed the vibrational alignment of the universe. And without question, you will be receiving shit tons of incoming. However, the biggest tip is when you're giving, you can't have any expectation of receiving. So you have to give for the sake of giving. And if you give for the sake of giving, and you learn to give for the sake of giving, especially when you're in a place where, I don't know how I can do this. I can't even afford $100. What am I going to do? And you give 50, you give 100, you give some to a nonprofit, you give to someone on the street, you give to somebody, and you change the vibration alignment. And every time I've ever done that, that's how we attracted the $180,000 wholesale fee just a few months ago. Right? Like shit like that happens. So, but again, with no expectation, I did not expect to receive anything. I did that, I donated to a nonprofit, or in one case I gave it to an uncle that I knew needed it, or whatever it might be. So another tip, that's a cure for getting out of scarcity. Wow. If you're feeling scarcity, you give money. You give something to something you don't even think you have enough of. Because you have plenty of it. Because it's not real. Because it's energy. Just like love. Love and money, not real. You can attract them. They just create more.
Wow. I love that, man. Holy crap. Wow. I don't even know what to say. Like that. That was beautiful is what that was, man. Damn. Wow. That's wild.
This moment I can let people just take it in. Like silence is good. Like I'm not afraid of silence.
I'm gonna be thinking about that for like the rest of the day, man. Holy crap. Wow.
Well, what other questions do we have on your sheet here that we can cover?
I do have I do have one question here for you, man. Mm-hmm. Question that I love to ask everybody. I've asked it before. I know we've talked about it. I'd like to ask it again. How do you define wealth?
Wealth. I actually link now wealth and success because my definition of both are linked. Wealth is being able to wake up in the morning and being able to choose anything you want to do that day and choose who you get to serve. Bottom line, right? You can be living under a bridge and still have that. That's still wealth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being able to be completely content, completely at joy, completely at peace, and being able to give love to the people you want to give love to. That's wealth, man. That's my new journey. My new journey is, we called it, the last podcast, I used to be extremely focused, and everything was scheduled, and everything had a moment, and like everything had a schedule, and it was super great at time blocking. And then I went the other direction, because I burnt out of that, so I went totally flowy. Right? We talked about our flowy.
Yes.
And it was only the last year that I'm like, flowy and focused or flocused.
Ooh.
That's the new
you
word.
Heard that here first.
The flocust is the new word. As you move into your flow, as you move into your vibration alignment, right? You can still choose to execute on your action items. You have to still choose to execute and take inspired actions towards that bigger vision, towards that thing you're being told and called to do. Right? And as you do that, everything else, I can choose to take care of my loved ones. I can choose to spend time with me, because as we love others is how we love ourselves.
Yep.
Being able to wake up every single morning, doing what it is that you want to choose to do, and caring for the people you choose to care about.
Hell yeah. Nick, this was absolutely awesome, man.
I don't know when this episode's going to air, but are you cool if I plug the November event? Is that
yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. For those of you who are interested in using real estate as a tool to financial freedom, right? You're interested. So we have REI Ignition, which gets you to 6 figures in real estate. Then we have REI Accelerated, which is an investment in tools, tech, and team to get you to $300,000 or higher, where you have consistent income coming in using real estate as a tool. And then we have our Life Unlimited element, which you now know about, but we haven't really launched that yet. We take all 3 of those aspects and combine it into one 3-day event. And it's not another summit. It's not another pitch fest from a whole bunch of different people trying to sell you stuff. We have a real estate element. We have a business element. We have a leadership element. And we have lots of tools in there, but we have a lot of things. Kyle, you were in last year's. There's specific evolutions.
Yes.
That we have you go through that doesn't just, because everyone can learn how to make $1 million in real estate by watching YouTube channel, by watching this podcast. Right? Watch this book. Watch Creating Wealth. You'll learn how to make $1 million in real estate. The difference is, why aren't you doing what is required? The difference is, why are you afraid of failure, or worse, afraid of success? Which most people are afraid of success. So we take you through different things called evolutions to get you to really understand what's important and get you to really crush some of those limiting beliefs that we talked about, to get you to be back to where you were as a 2-year-old child. Isn't that funny? Bringing our whole lives, we learn all this bullshit from 0 to 12, and then we just try to get back to being childlike.
Yep.
What's fun, right? What's fun? I can wake up and choose to do what I want to do, and with who I want to do it with. Yes, and if I want to buy a helicopter, I'm going to buy a helicopter, because God damn it, this is an abundant life.
Yeah.
So I love that. We'd love to see you guys there, November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It's a Friday through Sunday. Fridays for the VIP tickets. It's going to be a lot of contractor, a lot of project management. It's local. It's going to be in the greater Boston area. Take a look at, maybe the link will be in the comments, or we'll make sure that happens. But other than that, I had a great time today. Thanks for letting me be real.
I did too, man. Thank you so much, man. Holy shit.
All about being real.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs. Get access to our private investor portal and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.